Brijette, so we're at your farm here, and I just want you to share your story and what's going on here.
Sure. So this is our certified organic urban farm, and this is the home of San Diego Seed Company. We produce, breed, and trial regionally adapted seeds. So what that means is we produce seeds, so we actually grow seeds that go into the packets of our customers. We also do breeding, so we create new varieties or improve existing varieties, and we do trialing. And basically that means we try out varieties to make sure they do well here, because our growers and our customers have very specific needs that are different than people say in, Raleigh, North Carolina. So that's the chunk of what we do here. So we don't actually do any vegetable production for sale. It's all for seed. So do not be judgmental when you see my vegetable crops. They're not going to look as good because aesthetically they don't need to, because they will be for seed production rather than consumption. Although we do consume vegetables here for ourselves, we don't sell any of it.
So one of the most unique things about this farm is location and size.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So we are 1 acre, total property size. We only produce seed on about half of that, or less really. So the nice reason, one of the reasons why we chose seed production, or why it fits well in this area, is because we can do a lot in a really small space. And like I have told you guys, I don't know how people grow vegetables for sale. It's so hard. You have to produce a product that you have a very short period of time to get it to market. Seeds are a little bit easier in the sense that I have a stabilized product that I can store, and doesn't spoil as quickly.
So what's your background before starting this farm?
I'm originally from Kansas, where agriculture is king, but I didn't participate in agriculture at all there. But when I moved to Southern California, I couldn't believe how disconnected people were to their food source. And so that kind of started me down this journey of being concerned about food systems and food equality, and then I eventually got into seed production.
So it sounds like you're interested in getting into food production of some sort, but obviously besides the profitability on a small scale, like, did you have a backyard garden, or like, how did that all?
Yeah, so when I moved to, Southern California, San Diego, fell in love with growing. It just was this amazing escape from the real world, right? So I started taking all these courses, and I actually took a course at Seeds at City, which is at the community college just down the street from here. And I was sitting in class with my, at the time, we ended up being business partners, and it dawned on us that nobody was serving the growers in San Diego, specifically in Southern California, with varieties that did well here. So we got this crazy notion to start a seed company. And honestly, we were super naive. We had no idea what we were doing, but I think that helped, because had we known how much work would be ahead of us, I don't think we would have embarked on the journey. So that was in 2011, and we've grown tremendously since then. We have improved so many of our processes with our company, and we're offering new varieties, more varieties than ever, but it's been a very, very long journey.
All right, so can we go take a look around?
Sure. So our layout that we chose to do here is based on flexibility for one. We don't do raised beds because I like to be able to have a little more flexibility in where I put things, spacing, things like that. Another reason why we've done in-ground row crops is for the irrigation. If we don't have it on irrigation, it's not going to survive. So, and we do pay city water, so it's really important that our irrigation is precise and as efficient as possible. So we have drip irrigation that goes down each row, which we're going to be revamping in hopefully very soon to an even more efficient system than what we have now. But it just allows for spacing to be different on our crops. Since we're not doing production for food consumption, our spacing can be a little bit different. We can have things much closer together because it doesn't aesthetically need to look pretty in the CSA box. It just needs to have proper pollination for good seed sets and ease of harvesting as well.
So you're growing on such small acreage here. Can you talk a little bit about, having different varieties of crops, and so they're not?
Yeah, so we can't obviously produce everything. There's some things we can't produce for a couple different reasons. One, because we don't get cold enough, and then also space-wise. Broccoli seed is very hard for us to produce because we need such a large population, and we just don't have the space for that. One of the nice things where we are though is I don't have to worry about cross-pollination with neighbors growing, you know, GMO corn or anything else. We don't have any growing happening anywhere around us. We are it. This is the only growing in this area that's happening. So we do have to be careful about cross-pollination between open pollinated crops, meaning that we would only grow one species of things that would easily cross, so squash, things like that. It takes us a lot longer to build our catalog for things that we've produced. However, things like tomatoes, the modern tomato, does not cross as much because the flower, pollen doesn't get transferred from one flower to the other as easily. And we can geek out and I can show you what that looks like. So tomatoes and peppers, very easy for us to produce. And also because we're a small seed company, I don't need to produce 20 pounds of tomato seeds. I can produce a quality crop of a very small amount of tomato seeds that goes into our packets that gets distributed to our customers and our growers.
Absolutely. I mean, you think about how many seeds are in one tomato.
Yes, exactly. So, like I had mentioned, some of the stuff that we do is breeding, trialing, seed production, and this sweet pea has a really great story. So these sweet peas came to me from a seed saver in Point Loma in San Diego, and she'd been saving these seeds, producing them and saving them in her garden for over 20 years. She gave me some and said, these are the best sweet peas for San Diego. It can be difficult to produce sweet peas in San Diego because we actually have to plant in the fall. And sometimes in October we have, 110 degree weather in Santa Ana's that come through. So I was talking to her about being frustrated with not having a good sweet pea variety for our area. And she said, I've got a seed that I've been saving for 20 years. I will give you some, see what you think. It was the first year that we had really successful sweet peas, and not only do they grow really prolifically, they're also very resistant to powdery mildew, which is a huge issue in our area for growers. And they do really well through the super hot fall, which is you got to plant them in the fall and let them overwinter to have these amazing blooms in the spring. So she gave us the seed, we started producing it, and the second season she wanted to do a large plant out of her sweet peas, left them out, a rogue rainstorm came and all of her seeds were gone. Her work of 20 years would have been gone had she not given us some seeds and we were producing it. So we saved this variety from basically going away, all 20 years of her work, and now we produce it regularly. It's one of our best-selling and most prolific varieties.
What's the variety called?
We call this variety Point Loma Pops because it came from Sue Martin in Point Loma, and now we get to grow it out, and super fragrant, obviously beautiful.
The flowers are incredible.
Oh yeah, smell is amazing. So this is all for seed production, all of this here. So we will get probably somewhere around maybe a pound of totally clean seed off of this, maybe more, and that's what goes into our packets and goes to our customers.
All right, let's talk about tomatoes. And
Okay.
I think I want to start with, so when were these planted?
These were planted in April of last year.
Okay, so it is now February.
Yeah.
Just so you guys know.
Yeah, so in San Diego and a lot of areas of zones 9 and 10, we're really lucky that we can perennialize a lot of things. Perennialization is, there's good and bad with it. You don't want to perennialize something that is diseased or unhealthy, but we will leave crops in the ground if they're doing really well and very happy. And it's part of how we do a little bit of our research to find out which plants are really prolific and can grow through our winters and the times of the year that are less than perfect, right? So these were planted in April. They're looking a little ragged now, but as the days get longer and it gets a little bit warmer, these will just become loaded with tomatoes that we can enjoy in our house and we can also use for seed production. So you can see how thick some of these stems are. They're, these are, like you said, they look like grapevines.
Yeah, absolutely.
So another reason why we perennialize a lot of things that or grow well past the season is it helps me know how resistant something is. There is very little powdery mildew and foliar disease on this tomato, and right now is the time of year where we get a lot of that because of the conditions, and so it just helps me know a little bit more about how vigorous the plant is.
And you're doing a couple kinds of tomatoes here?
Yeah, so we've got, this one's we've got black cherry, and some things have been pulled out. These guys here, this is a black cherry. We just pulled a bunch, but you could see more over here.
Okay.
And
you don't worry about cross-pollination with...
So the amazing thing about tomatoes, which I will show you, let me get a flower here. What receives the pollen is actually inside these petals. So the likelihood of cross-pollination, and now this does depend on where you are. There are some areas that have insects that will actually, especially if you're in the tropics, that will chew through the outside. But the modern tomato, the receptor of the pollen is actually hidden inside here, if you can see.
Okay.
There it is right there. So it actually sheds pollen on itself. That's what they call a selfer, a self-pollinating. So the likelihood of cross-pollination is pretty slim.
Okay.
So that's one of the reasons why tomato crops are a good seed crop for us, space-wise.
Plus a lot of seeds per...
A lot of seeds, and my husband always jokes and he says when he grows up, which he's totally not grown up yet, that he wants to be a tomato farmer. He loves, this is all his babies.
Oh, wait a minute, I recognize this.
Yeah, so this is your trellis system. And we did it with the PVC because we had failed so many times at trellis systems that I didn't want my husband to invest a bunch of time, energy, and money into a trellis system that we hated. So we had PVC laying around, we did that, but we love it so much that we are gonna upgrade to metal conduit and make it much more permanent because it allows us to prune very easy. It allows our rows to be pretty close together. And the canopy of the tomatoes actually really helps with weeds, which is a big issue on our farm. So overall, I really love how you can control the plant growth. Most of the varieties we work with are heirlooms that are indeterminate, and you know how viney those get. So having a system where we can control that is just incredible. So thank you for putting that into the world.
My pleasure. It's cool to see it somewhere else.
Yeah. All right, so this is another example of a really neat, unique plant that we grow for seed production. This is called the Peruvian ground cherry. In Peru, they call it aguamante. And we fell in love with it because it's really great for permaculture applications. It goes really well in a food forest. It grows like crazy for us. And the fruits, so it looks like a tomatillo. And it's Solanaceum pimpifolium is the category it's in. And it is super amazing flavor. Like it's this weird mix of all of these different things. And I don't know, you guys want to try it and you can tell me what you think about it?
I'm going to try it.
Okay.
Whoa, where'd you come from, buddy?
Hey, Josh. Thanks for inviting me to California.
Yep.
All right, so ground cherry, Peruvian ground cherry.
So it's very similar to like the Cape gooseberry. I think you guys grow that on the East Coast, right? No? Okay. It's got a lot of seeds. It's very small.
Whoa, can you check out that seed count there? That is amazing. It tastes like, yeah, like a tomato mixed with an orange, like straight up like an orange, kind of tart. Almost, yeah, it's great. It's
you get like, there's a little bit of like almost bitter, tangy, like all these tannins. I don't even know if you can say that, but it's like all these different flavors, and as you're chewing through it, it goes through sweet, sour, savory, and when you dehydrate them, that's how we ate them in Peru, like in nut mixes, the salt with that, oh, it's just incredible.
That's delicious.
Yeah.
I can see it being dehydrated.
They make really good jams if you take the time to collect them enough. So like this, the purpose of this is we do seed production from here, and then we also are working on making this plant a little more suited for backyard growers. Obviously it gets ginormous, so we're trying to figure out a way in which we can select for smallness, and also it will set fruit over a very long period of time. So we want to work on getting the plant to set fruit a little more frequently, so it's a little bit easier to harvest.
How fast does it go to fruit? Like, is it a 90-day? Like, is it somewhere around tomatoes?
Yes, it's very similar to tomatoes. Now, this has been in the ground for over a year, and we've had to chop back a lot of it. And another thing that's a little bit of a pain is that, similar to tomatillos, it can get so loaded that it kind of starts to fall. You can see this hole here where it's just, so it does take some pruning to kind of, if you want to keep it neat, but it's gorgeous and nothing really eats it. The leaves have some stickiness to it that I think insects don't like.
Yeah.
So it's just overall a really neat plant, and for like a permanent garden bed, I mean, where you guys are, it would die, but for zones 9 and 10, it can be in a permanent garden bed, and it will just give and give and give and give and give.
And it just looks so healthy.
Yeah. Here is my fava bean patch. As you guys were joking with me, it may look different. Our fava beans may look different to other people in the United States. We grow fava beans for multiple reasons. One, it is a really good crop to improve soil quality. So the reason why we have favas here at the last bed is because if you start at the first bed on our farm, the soil's pretty amazing. As you move away from that first bed, it keeps getting, incrementally worse. So we grew this here to improve the crops, improve the soil. We inoculated it for nitrogen fixing, and then this is also a food crop as well. So nothing gets wasted here. We'll produce seed, and then we will also eat the fava beans, which are delicious if you guys want to try them. So we'll pick them about like that stage, and actually we make a killer hummus out of it, which I learned from my friends in Peru. You want to try it?
Yeah. Oh, hey, Josh.
Oh, hey.
He always shows up when there's food.
Yeah, right?
I see how this works.
Okay, so I've never eaten a fava at this
Which
stage.
just blows my mind. They're really good. Oh my God, pickled, but just eat it.
Okay, but when you have a fava, don't they have like a second coating around
Yes,
them?
it's
But
very,
that's only
it's
when
very
they mature.
young. Yeah.
Okay, so there's a green fava.
Yeah. Yep. That will get, as that gets bigger, it will have a coating on the outside, and then you can. Most people, when they buy them, when they're that big, they will squeeze out the inner embryo,
Right.
and that's what they eat. But I know lots of people have different cultures that prepare them different ways. I'm lazy, so I don't want to do the whole. So I will pick them at that stage, and you can tell with a little bit of garlic, delicious.
So what? Parboil them, toss them in a little
Yep.
butter and garlic,
Yep.
and you're good to go.
Yep. We like to blend them with a little bit of oil, and you can make a really good hummus. There's
Awesome.
all kinds of different ways. So the bees love it. I mean, I don't know if you can get like a
Yeah, there's bees all over
shot.
the
Yeah,
place.
Bees.
they're everywhere. They're super happy. So, and then this is also really important organic matter for our compost. So at the end of the year, or at the end of the season, we will pull the seeds off for seed production. Those will get processed, which I can show you guys how we process that. And then the leftover organic matter, it goes in the compost, which as an urban farm, it's hard to find enough on-farm organic matter. We can bring in organic matter from breweries and other places, but we only can produce so much for ourselves here. So it's one of the ways that we do that.
It's a crazy amount of biomass.
Yeah.
Like even the pods themselves. These
Yeah.
things are huge.
And that's immature.
Right.
I mean, they will get much bigger.
Right.
So
So when did these go in the ground?
these went in the ground in October.
Okay.
And direct seeded. We just
Right.
direct seeded these. So you can see how that one's getting a little bit bigger, and it's
Right.
almost, it's getting close to the point where like it starts to be a little more.
Fibrous.
Well, you can see how
That one's actually pretty good.
if you like open it up, you can squeeze out like that. That's what most people do, and then they eat that.
Right, that's the-
that center part there. But that's good. You're not one of those like 1 in a million that's super allergic to fava beans, are you?
We're about to find out.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Rogaine. If you are a seed saver, either a beginning seed saver or an avid seed saver, it's important to understand what Rogaine is and why you should be doing it. On our farm, we're always Rogaine plants, and basically what it means is pulling out plants that do not have desirable characteristics, so they don't pollinate with the seed that we do want to produce, or the plants, which will then become the seed. So this is just a good example. Here's some radishes here, and these are actually second generation radishes that we have produced seed from, and we grow them out again, and then we pull out anything that has bad characteristics that we don't like, and one of them is the tendency to bolt. This is not going to make for a yummy radish, and so we will pull out and get rid of, and look at that, oh my gosh. We'll get rid of this because, look, it barely produced a marketable radish root, which is what you want. So that's part of what that process is. You can see like this guy, radish root, not radish root. So you can see the difference there. That's important if you're going to do any seed saving at all. Market growers will do this obviously because you can't put this in your CSA. But this is a much better candidate.
Right, so you're selecting for that
Yep.
crop.
Yep. So this is our greenhouse, and we built this greenhouse last spring. There's a lot of different information on how to grow a greenhouse. I don't want to give anybody advice because I think it's very, very particular to your to your farm, your situation, your location, but I'll tell you why we did what we did. So we decided to do a stick-built greenhouse instead of buying a kit, partly because it ended up being a lot less expensive because I had labor to do it. Myself, my husband, and my cousin helped me build this. And so we were only out the time and the material for the greenhouse plastic and all of the wood. Another reason why I really like this is I know my greenhouse is central to the work that we do now and the work that we're going to do in the future. So I wanted something permanent. I wanted something really strongly built, wasn't going to go anywhere. The storm was not going to move it. And I wanted it to be wood so that we could easily alter it as we decide down the road, different things that we want to do. Some pitfalls of that is because we're certified organic, we do not use any treated lumber, which means that we will have some rot that will happen just naturally. I don't think that's that big of a deal. I can replace a 2x4 here and there. And for us in San Diego, it gets really hot in this greenhouse. So one of the things we have to do is we have to use shade cloth.
Does that go over the top or just over your benches?
Actually, so you can do it over the top, but I don't like that the wind catches it and makes a lot of noise. So I will actually do it in here, and I can open it and close it as needed.
So it'll cover the whole inside, basically.
So I've got another wire over here.
Okay, cool.
And it can get pulled and go all the way one way or the other.
Okay.
For me, it's what makes sense. There's washes that you could use on the plastic. I don't know what is certified and not certified, so we just stay away from that. And this is actually kind of not a great version. What I want to use is the Illuminet is it's my next exciting thing I want to buy is a nice sheet that goes across here that will shade it and keep it cooler in the summertime. So this greenhouse is essential to our farm for a number of reasons. Number one is despite what a lot of people's grandparents say, we actually we seed start and transplant out a lot of our root crops. I know that sounds crazy. It's against conventional thinking, but we do it for two reasons. One, I can space my root crops perfectly, which is so important when we're on such a small farm. And two, water is very expensive. It's easier for me to keep my trays moist in here versus keeping my 40-foot row moist for even germination.
I'm also thinking about for root crops, I mean, you don't have to plant as many as someone would be if they were selling the actual root crop.
There is a relatively large population that you need for root crop seed production. However, you are correct. That is another great reason why we like to start it. So here's just an example. Here's some carrot seed that we will actually transplant out one by one. I know it's crazy, but for us, we're small, it makes sense. I'm not saying that this is advisable for probably any market grower, but for us, space-wise, it's awesome. And I just like how I can control the temperature in here and the moisture in here to get much better germination rate, quicker germination rate. Germinating carrots in beds, I'm sure you know, like it can be a pain. It can be really wacky and very uneven. So that's one of the things that we do in here. And then also because we're a seed company, we do a lot of trialing of seed that we get. And so the greenhouse works really great for us to get stuff up and growing quickly and then transplant it out. So if you close your eyes and you listen, that traffic noise almost sounds like the ocean.
All right.
It's the poor man's ocean.
Nice, nice. So you can really see right behind you here, this is, you're urban, this is San Diego.
Yep.
What's sort of some of the struggles that it's been for urban agriculture and any advice you can give to people?
Yeah, so we didn't start out trying to become urban farmers. We really wanted to get land and we wanted to, as my uncle would say, be a real farmer because he teases me and says I'm not a real farmer. And that struggle was really disheartening. Financing is hard, land is really hard to come by, particularly in places with really high density populations like here. But instead of letting that beat us down, we took that opportunity to try to show people that you can grow no matter where you are, and you can be successful, and you can grow on a small scale. We want our farm to be an example of a successful urban farm, and hopefully we are doing that and inspiring people. And it doesn't mean we're going to grow here forever, but this is where we are now. This is what we can afford. This is what makes sense. And so we're gonna make it work. And one of the benefits of being urban is I can be close to my customers. Yeah, so if you're urban, and you're struggling to find land, instead of spending your whole life trying to find the right piece of land, maybe it's a good idea just to start growing where you are at now, start small, and who knows what it will lead to.
Awesome advice. Brijette, thank you so much. If people want to buy all the cool seeds, like how do they do that?
So we are online. We have a awesome website that is always improving, and we're always putting up new products. If you're not in San Diego, that's the way to do it. If you are in San Diego, we have over 20 retail locations. They're all listed online, and you can find our packets there. We just recently got brand new packets, front and back, super beautiful, so keep your eyes peeled for those.
Very cool. I'll leave links down below for that and social media too.
Cool. Sounds good. Thanks for coming over, guys.
Thanks for having us.
So I was complaining about...
What's the variety called?
That was kind of a little one. And you want to save seed from it. Part of what market growers will do it just so they have, sorry, why we like to start it. Wait for this guy.
Hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, good. That was terrible.
Okay.